America. Land of the free, home of the brave, and apparently always open to new members. Okay, maybe not always. The last time we added a star to the flag was 1959. Hawaii, beautiful place, amazing beaches. But what if I told you there's another contender out there, a place that's been knocking on the door of statehood, a place called Somaliland? Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Somaliland, where the heck is that? Fair question. It's a small, self-declared nation on the Horn of Africa. Been doing its own thing since 1991. Independent, democratic, even got its own currency, military, and functioning government. And they've got their eyes on a prize bigger than just recognition. They want to be part of the USA, baby. Now, I'm no expert on foreign policy. I get most of my news from Twitter, just like the rest of you, but even I can see this is a big deal. We're talking about a whole new state, with its own culture, its own history, its own problems. Could be amazing. Could be a disaster. Or, it could just be interesting. Either way, buckle up, folks, because we're diving headfirst into the wild world of what if Somaliland became the 51st state. First things first, let's get acquainted with the hopeful newcomer. Somaliland, as I mentioned, is hanging out on the east coast of Africa, right on the Gulf of Aden. Prime real estate for, pirates, apparently. Less so for, say, Starbucks. But hey, maybe that's part of its charm, right? Historically, Somaliland's got a pretty rough track record. Colonized by the British, then briefly independent before being tricked into a union with Somalia. That went about as well as a lead balloon with a brutal civil war erupting in the late 80s. Somaliland said enough is enough and declared independence in '91. Problem is, nobody has yet to recognize it. It's like that friend who says they're a DJ, but you've never actually seen them play a gig. They've got the equipment, they've got the attitude, but the world's not quite convinced yet. But that doesn't mean they aren't legit. Somaliland's built a stable, peaceful, and functioning democracy, especially compared to its neighbors. They've got their own government, their own military, even their own wacky currency. Look up the Somaliland shilling, it's a wild ride. Alright, so let's say it happens. Somaliland, against all odds, becomes the 51st state. What does that even look like? Well, first off, Congress is going to need a new coffee machine because those late-night voting sessions just got a whole lot longer. You think healthcare was a tough debate? Try explaining statehood to a bunch of senators who still use flip phones. Then there's the issue of representation. Somaliland gets 2 senators, obviously, because that's how this whole democracy thing works. But how many representatives? What about electoral votes? Suddenly Iowa's feeling a little less important, and Ted Cruz is having a meltdown about the sanctity of the caucus system. And that's just on the American side. Over in Somaliland, they're trading in their shillings for dollars, their camels for Cadillacs. Maybe. The political landscape gets a whole lot more complicated. Do they keep their current government, or do they become just another state legislature? Do they get to keep their own laws, or does Sharia law have to take a back seat to, like, whatever the legal drinking age is in Washington state? It's 21, by the way, just in case you were wondering. Now let's talk money. Specifically, whose money is going where? See, becoming the 51st state isn't just about stars and stripes and patriotic sing-alongs, it's about cold, hard cash. Somaliland, despite its best efforts, is still a developing country. They've got a lot of catching up to do, infrastructure-wise, education-wise, you name it. And who do you think's footing the bill for all that? That's right, Uncle Sam. We're talking billions, maybe trillions of dollars in aid, development projects, the whole shebang. Now, some might say that's a small price to pay for stability in a volatile region. United States can gain strategic advantage. Somaliland's location along the Gulf of Aden provides access to one of the world's busiest trade routes, offering the U.S. a strategic position to monitor and secure maritime trade. Others might point out that we could use that money to, fix our own damn potholes. It's a classic case of you gotta spend money to make money. Chances of getting return in our investment seems pretty high given countering Chinese influence. Partnering with Somaliland could give the U.S. a first-mover advantage in the region, potentially limiting Chinese influence.